Yeah, I don't know if I appreciate it because there's a lot of things that whoever doesn't work in hospitality um, may have difficulty to understand. The biggest one for sure is the commitment that people that work in hospitality put towards their job, especially if they're passionate about it. It's kind of being like a doctor, like you live in the hospital, you live in the restaurant, you need to be present, you need to be attentive, but at the same time, you do it because you want to do it, because you like to do it. You like to deliver that experience to the guest, and delivering that experience has no a clock on it. So there's no day that you can consider a 9 to 5 and at 5 o'clock I just close my laptop and walk out the door. There's always something that is going to keep you there an extra hour or bring you in a couple of hours earlier because you want to be prepared or you need to be ready for something. So there's a lot of commitment that is needed. Definitely it's difficult when it comes to a multi-store location job to keep up with every single location and every single item that need to be taken care of in each location.
Welcome to the Bitcoin by Oceans. I'm your host, Kaylor from Oceans Code Experts. With me today, I have Giacomo Ellena, Director of Bar Operations at LDV Hospitality. Welcome to the show, Giacomo.
Thank you, Kaylor. Hi, everyone.
Giacomo, can you please walk us through who Giacomo is, what you're doing now, maybe a little bit of background that leads us to where you're at now?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career as a bartender when I was around 15, 16 in my hometown. I had this call in me and working hospitality was what I wanted to do. And I traveled around the world, lived in Australia, then back to Italy, in Venice, then Milan, then moved out in London before turning 30. That's where I started working with LDV. As a bartender, it was the first opening abroad outside of the United States for Scarpetta, which is our top brand in the company. And then in 4 years in London, I scaled from bartender to bar manager and finally got an amazing offer to move to New York City as the director of bars first, and today bars operations. LDV Hospitality is a group that owns different brands. Scarpetta is definitely the one at the top, is the flagship, is the one that was created first, along with other brands like Barlume, which we just opened last year in New York, and then a couple of pop-ups in Europe, one in Portugal and one in the south of Spain. We have Dolce Italian, which is another brand that right now we have in Miami and Philadelphia, and American Cut, which we're really proud of. We have the flagship in New York City, which has been just listed 67 best steakhouse in the world and fourth in New York City. Scarpetta is the main brand, as I was saying, and that is a little bit spread around the world. We have some licenses and management deals that we have around the world, like Spain, London, Doha, Tokyo, and definitely more to come in the future.
Are you responsible for all of those different locations?
So my job is primarily in New York City and the United States, where we have full control of our venues, while the location that we have, which are license or management deals, we have an obligation quarterly to check in. We provide all the support possible, but ultimately on more technical questions like selection of spirits or relationship with suppliers or brands, that ultimately comes from the venue itself. We don't really have a say in that, but we definitely help implementing our standards, our identity, making sure that everything is performed like we would.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about the property and the group. For example, give me a sense of scale. How many employees? What does your team look like? Your immediate team? Who are you relying on?
So our corporate team, which is the one I work for, it's a very small team. We have a senior vice president of operation. We have a chief operating officer. We have a little marketing department with 4 people working. We have a little department of development, which take care of basically from the concept to finding the right venue to develop the actual construction and deliver the venues for us to get in and set it up and open it. And then each location, of course, has their own team. We go from location where we have only a restaurant to location where we have a restaurant, a cocktail lounge, a lobby bar. We operate both standalone location and we also operate food and beverage for hotels. So we get in, we take control of everything except for the mini bars in the rooms. And we basically deliver our standards, our product, and we work closely, of course, with the hotels in making it happen.
So, Giacomo, you have a very unique title. Director of Bar Operations is one of those titles that I imagine people will have that very different pictures in their minds about what that looks like. Of course, I imagine there's a really fun part that comes with the role. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here. But the last time we talked, I remember you expanded a little bit more and told me both about the those interesting, very fun aspects of it, but at the same time, everything else that goes behind the operations and the complexity that comes with that. Could you tell us more about what your role looks like on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, absolutely. Primarily, when I started as a director of bars, I was in charge of the beverage program of all the venues in the group. So I was trying to be the bridge in between marketing, activation with marketing, and brands relationship, cocktail selection, and creation for the new seasonal menus, and was basically tied to that, along with a little bit of support of the bars whenever was needed, even jumping behind the bar sometimes. Even if I'm in suit, I like to be in zone everywhere I go. I just don't stand behind the desk. With the new position that I got last year, which combined the director of bar and operations, my role expanded a little bit more. And it's really fun because I still keep doing all the beverage part, where now that we have more restaurants and more venues and we keep opening new places, it is definitely more difficult for me to create the menus myself, but I actually now interface myself with the head bartenders, the bar managers that we have across our locations. And I give more of a high level direction of where we want to be, what kind of cocktails we want to have on the menu in each season, the flavors that are trendy and that we want to focus on. But then I leave to the team the creation part. I'll get to do the best part, which is the final tasting, along with my manager. We usually sit down also with the general manager of each location. We go through every creation, cocktails, making sure they're in line with the brand identity, and then approve them and support then the rollout each season. We usually change the menu twice a year, 3 times a year in some location, depending on how much we need to rotate. The other part of operation instead, still really fun, but definitely more complex, includes me being, of course, present in each location as much as possible during service, being on the floor, supporting the staff on the floor, the managers in anything they may need, and also controlling that everyone does their own job and they follow their SOPs, their instruction, their standards, and ultimately jumping in case an action is needed, if we need to correct something, both on the spot whenever I'm on site, but also even taking the time to analyze the situation and make the right decision. And always doing it supporting the local managers. It's not that we go in and we just decide what to do when people are soldiers and execute. But it's more of something that we work together to get to the right result.
Got it.
So
There
it's
are many
very
things.
dynamic.
Absolutely. I mean, I think after a certain point of your career, once you get to this level of expertise, there's so much that is expected from you. So I imagine that's difficult to pack into a single kind of 2 minute question. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so on that note, then Giacomo, again, we're gonna come back to many of the things that you mentioned, but I want to learn from you. What's the part of your operation that you're most satisfied with right now? The piece that you believe your team has achieved successfully. Imagine maybe there are a few, but try to pick a favorite.
I'm very proud of how the bar teams that we have work together and with myself when it comes to keeping up the standards or creating new drinks or coming up with new ideas to activate our spaces. And they do it in a way that it's a team effort. It's not, which is always has been my goal since the beginning of my career. I had an experience in the past of when I was bartender of having a bar manager that was a big solo player, and where I had to just obey to the orders, which is probably the most terrible things for a bartender that wants to express his creativity. And I always promised myself that in case of a higher career and growing in my position, I would have never been like that. I would have been definitely more of a team player. And that's where I am right now. I love to involve everyone. I love to see their point of view. I always think that no one is ever arrived. There's always something to learn. Even from, even if I'm a director of bars, that I have bartenders in some of our locations that come up with crazy cocktails that I would have never thought about it, for example. And so there's a learning part that is incredible every day. And that not just on the beverage side, also on the operational side. The senior vice president of operation is the manager I report to. And he has a outstanding experience in hospitality since he was at the beginning of his career. And so every day I get on the field and I learn something new, especially because now transitioning to the operational side, I also oversee floor operation, kitchen pass, accounting, and other parts of the business that is not just the walking around, talking to people and making sure the service is smooth. And that is definitely very interesting because every day I get a new part to put in my baggage for sure.
So out of all of that, what is the hardest part of your job that you don't think is appreciated enough from people outside of the industry, or maybe just not well known enough?
Yeah, I don't know if I appreciate it because there's a lot of things that whoever doesn't work in hospitality may have difficulty to understand. The biggest one for sure is the commitment that people that work in hospitality put towards their job, especially if they're passionate about it. It's kind of being like a doctor, like you live in the hospital, you live in the restaurants, you need to be present, you need to be attentive, but at the same time, you do it because you want to do it, because you like to do it. You like to deliver that experience to the guest, and delivering that experience has no a clock on it. So there's no day that you can consider a 9 to 5 and at 5 o'clock I just close my laptop and walk out the door. There's always something that is going to keep you there an extra hour or bring you in a couple of hours earlier because you want to be prepared or you need to be ready for something. So there's a lot of commitment that is needed. Definitely is difficult when it comes to a multi-store location job to keep up with every single location and every single item that need to be taken care of in each location. Because in the same day I can go from our bakery in Union Square to Barlume, a couple of blocks above, to Brooklyn, and we have 3 different identity, 3 different concepts, if not 4, because in Brooklyn we have a Roman restaurant called Lele's and a sushi omakase, 14 seats called Koju Sushi. And those, for example, are completely different identities within the same building, and everyone has their own items that they need to bring on, and you need to be present, you need to keep up with everything that is happening. So it's definitely tough compared to running one restaurant and just having to think about what's happening in one location only. But at the same time, I always see it as a challenge to make myself better and to bring myself to be more elastic and have work faster with my brain to shift from one operation to the other and try to jump in and be on top of everything. It's not always possible, of course. We're all humans, but it definitely pushes you to do better.
I actually had a guest this week tell me that in hospitality, and he said this like it was obvious. He said it's known that you are not working 40 hours. You're working like 70 to 80 hours per week. And again, he said it like that's the case for everybody. Do you feel like that's the case?
It is. The new world of hospitality, especially after COVID, has seen a big change in putting more attention towards the lifestyle of hospitality people. And there's always more companies that grow outside of hospitality that work for hospitality and for their wellness, mental health, and other topics related. But at the same time, working in hospitality is, again, a commitment, and it's impossible to do it in 40 hours. It's impossible. People try to. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you have a slow week, and that's where you need to play smart and be like, and this is something that I love of my company, that there is no micromanagement. They trust us. They trust what we do and the way that we do it. Maybe there's a week that is lower and I have more time to do my own thing and deliver my duties, but at the same time be able to work my 40 hours. And then I have weeks that, I don't know, opening weeks, for example. You have a new opening, you're going to work 7 days straight for 3-4 weeks in a row. And maybe it's going to be like a 15-16 hour shift every day. You do what you got to do, but at the same time, you know that in the future, if you need an extra day off, you last for it and you're going to get it. So it's like the Latin says, do des, you give and you receive at the same time, which is what I love of this company. But definitely, yes, the answer is yes. Like there's not 40 hours a week.
From hearing you speak, it sounds like it's basically non-negotiable. Like that's the way it has to be, right? The longer weeks are they just come with the job.
I think that definitely on a local level, so on a store level, there are key positions that in order to deliver a great experience, they have something that is that the leaders need to be there, and definitely need to be there more than other people. But definitely also on a corporate level anyway, because like in a job like mine, even if I'm not physically in one of the stores from 9 a.m., I'm home, I'm answering emails, maybe I take a call from home, and then I travel for an hour to get to the city. In the meantime, I'm checking my emails again, and then I get to the first location. I have things to do over there. And a lot of things have timings and deadlines. They're not things that we can do and just take 2 or 3 weeks to get it done, um, we work to get things done as much as possible, as fast as possible. Because also, like, if you keep procrastinating, then they're gonna pile up, and then you're gonna drown. So you need to kind of push, and sometimes you need to stay an hour longer because you want to finish to answer your emails before you go home. Because the morning after, you want to start your day fresh. You want to start back up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a big component of time management that need to be done properly. And also there is a component of that I like of the corporate world where, yes, I'm in operation, but at the same time, I have days during the week in which I support my family and I get to leave at 5. But that doesn't mean that I'm done with my job. I get out at 5, I got to pick up my kids at school. But then once they go to bed at 7 or 8, maybe I'll go back in for another hour or two if I have to finish some things for the day after.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, like I mentioned before, it's the commitment that you put for the job, and it's definitely rewarding on the long run. There's a lot of effort that get put in, but there's also a lot of rewarding at the end.
So you told me that there are things that sometimes are non-negotiable that maybe they have to be done within 2 to 3 weeks, and again, you kind of have to get them done. What are those things, Giacomo?
Oh, it can be anything. Like this week, I need to train. I need to train a couple of chefs in one of our stores. I need to execute inventory properly, and then how to lay the numbers of the inventory into an Excel spreadsheet to then share it with accounting, for example. That need to be done before my weekends because I got to the point, luckily, where I usually don't work Saturday and Sundays unless it's required, which I'm always happy to do if I have to. But at the same time, I know that those numbers are going to be delivered on Monday morning. So these need to get done this week. Like, I don't have a choice. So I gotta make space in my calendar, in my duties of this week. I gotta make space for that, even if maybe I don't have the space. And that when it comes to maybe putting a couple of hours more on a day to get rid of some other stuff that you need to get done, so that now you are gonna have your couple of hours free to spend with the chefs and making sure that they are trained in the proper way.
Okay, so let me press that a little further because I would argue that, yes, it is true that some weeks will be long, and it's true that some things you have to be there. But as with basically any industry, there is a part that you're always looking to make more efficient, that you're always looking to automate everything that goes behind the scenes. So here's one for you. There's one thing I hear consistently from pretty much any hospitality operators, regardless of the role, and that is that the problem with systems never really got solved, right? Every vendor promising its integration, but most venues are still reconciling things manually, or there's still a lot of manual reporting and manual work that should have been automated before. Is that your reality, or do you feel that you're in a very efficient level of all of those things that should be kind of behind the scenes?
It's a good question. I will go to the store level for this answer. At a store level, there's a series of admin work that need to be done by usually the general manager or the assistant general manager, which is payroll and approving invoices at the end of the week and placing orders and all this kind of stuff. This is all stuff that there are tools to automate all of this for sure. I think at the end of the day, you still need a human eye to double check all of this office work that you do. And at the same time, we kind of try to reduce as much as possible the admin time for our stores in order to have our managers available on the floor throughout the service, because that's the key part. You want your managers to be on the floor. You want your managers to touch tables, talk to people. I don't like to say people, talk to guests, and make new guests and make new guests regulars. Like asking how the dinner is going and if there's a favorite dish that they had, or maybe reading the room and see that there's a table that need more attention than another for a specific reason, or even just coordinating the floor and the servers and the bartenders and making sure that everything runs smooth. That's the most important part of the job. So we try to reduce the admin as much as possible. We have some key players in some of our buildings which do a lot of administrative things and leave the managers more free to stay on the floor. There's definitely, I've been working with managers that have been exploring the use of AI. I don't know, populate their payroll system, for example. And, it's who's more keen in trying these things, but always double checking if everything was done right. But there's definitely a part of admin that instead need to be done. And it probably is more efficient done by a person, like inventories, for example. Inventories, inventories are the thing that bartenders or managers usually hate to do because it's long and it takes time. But at the same time, I don't think there's any technology at the moment that is faster than a human eye in counting a full liquor inventory, because there are different devices for sure that make it easier and more precise, like you have scales.
That's a topic that I find fascinating. So let me dive a little deeper into inventory management, because again, that I find to be extremely interesting. So you're telling me you're doing weekly inventory and that a lot of it is manual, and basically there are no faster ways to do that. So keep me honest and tell me if my read of this is correct. Is inventory management largely judgment from the people that are counting, the historical feel, the sales from the past? Or do you have a system, like a formulaic system that you can rely on to predict how much you should be bringing in or how much you should be bringing out?
So the inventory management in that sense was like purchases and usage of the inventory is definitely something that is based on a different million factors. The most important for sure is the history, the time in which we are during the year, for example, if it's a holiday, if it's in which location we are, like we work with our location in the Hamptons. We know that in the summer we're gonna have to pack up our inventory, but then we're gonna keep it super lean. Almost we don't order for weeks during the winter time, and we just go through the inventory and try to lower it as much as possible and keep our cash in the pocket. And then you have location in New York in which you gotta pack up every week, but then on 4th of July weekend, you keep your ordering at the bare minimum again because you know that the week is going to be slow. We track everything weekly: numbers, revenue, food costs, liquor costs, beverage costs in general. We have a team of accounting that does this for us. Definitely that help us out when it comes to the budgeting for the next year, but also help us out when we know that the year prior on the same week we did certain amount of dollars in liquor sales, for example. And so we know that that's a week in which we need to push more. And then we have weeks in which, we need to stay a little bit more calm and maybe say no to someone that is like, hey, do you want to bring in my product? And, it's a cool vodka. You're going to put it on your shelf. It's this and that. Say, you know what? I don't have budget this week to do that. Once we pick up more business and I have a little bit more cash flow to do that, I'll spend the money and bring your own vodka and your new vodka on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely there's a lot of judgment into it. We have amazing beverage managers in each location, which I work with, and they're all very on point. They know what to do. They know how much to spend and when to keep it low and when to go harder. And the liquor system as well in New York is really complicated. So the liquor laws are really strict. There's a system called the 3-tier system. So a producer cannot sell to a restaurant. They need to go to a distributor. And the pricing are posted publicly. So everyone from the biggest restaurant to the mom and pop shop, they can access the same value of product without any difference. The difference comes when if you have a big storage and you have more money, you can buy 10 cases instead of 5. And there's going to be a discount. That discount is available to everyone. So if you want, you can do that. And so we work a lot also with, those are called, and technically called case breaks. That's something that we work a lot with because we want to make sure that we rotate our case breaks and we try to buy as much as possible at the same time of the same product to guarantee us the lowest price possible on the market. And then maybe so 1 week we focus on one brand of vodka and we buy 10 cases of those and we store it. And then maybe for 3 weeks, we don't buy that vodka anymore, but we got that vodka at the best price possible instead of buying just 6 bottles, even if I know that I'm going to use just 6 bottles for that week. But 6 bottles may cost me $30 a bottle. If I buy 10 cases, it's going to cost me $20 a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of...
No, I mean, I just find this remarkable because it's clear to me that you have found aspects of the system that allow you to maximize the efficiency, like this bulk buying. And it also sounds like other operators could benefit from ordering with demand data that tells them that I'm going to need this much product and therefore I'm going to save this much money. by making decisions based upon that. But I still heard you say something that is in par with what I hear from the industry, which is that their food or beverage costs typically run 4 to 6 points above where they believe it should be. But I heard you mention other factors that play into that. Can you bring me back to what those are?
Regarding beverage cost
Yeah.
and the percentage, there's a lot of factors. There's factors that play into the beverage cost could be definitely the pricing, the strategy on how you price things as well, and the way you want to rotate your inventory from how you price the most expensive stuff that you have, which usually you price at a higher cost because you want to still sell it. You don't want to price it at 15% cost and then have it on the market at unbearable prices that people will never call for. And then you play with whatever is a little bit more affordable to have a more in line price with the rest of the market. You balance your inventory, liquor selection, your cocktails, in order to be in a good spot on the market and not be too overpriced, but at the same time not being too below the market. And my biggest point when we do pricing, for example, is I always want to try to be the most ethical possible, especially in a city like New York where everything is so expensive. I want to be able to offer a clientele something that is of an extremely high quality, premium product, but at the same time without ripping off anyone. We try to be very, very mindful of this, both with wines, with beers, with our food as well. We're not those places where you go in and you buy cocktails for $35 a cocktail, where there is no need to charge $35 a cocktail. We're very ethical on that side. And so we try to play with different things like the case breaks, picking niche products that maybe are less mainstream than other, and so even a little bit more affordable on our side, still keeping a very good quality. And so we play with those kind of products as well. On top of that, then there is the operation. So there is cost control and like pour control, for example. When bartender pour, we work with jiggers. Behind every single bar is absolutely mandatory to use the jigger to measure every pour that we pour in a glass. We work with batches. Batches is the combination of, let's say, alcoholic parts of a cocktail. We keep, of course, the fresh out because we don't want it to be perishable, but that allow you to be consistent, at the same time allow you to be very clean in what you're making. Doesn't matter if you have 3 guests at the bar of 100, you're still going to be very consistent on flavors, but at the same time you also keep control every single portion of every single ingredient that is going in the cocktail, without overpouring one or the other. The spillage, or if people spill when they're pouring something, that's definitely a loss of liquor that goes in the drain. So we try to be very mindful of that. We try to be very mindful of the way we carry our drinks to the table, breakages and glasses that fall down. We record all of that, or at least we try. There are places where we can, places where it's too busy to do it. But as much as we can, we try to record. If, for example, if we're doing a cocktail tasting, we'll still post every single cocktail that is made into our POS and then comp it in order to account anyway for those costs when we're going to produce our P&L, and making sure that there is less liquor in the liquor room compared to our revenue, but we also have a discount of those products that has been used for a training or for a tasting. So we know where everything is going.
Wow. I mean, it's just an insane amount of variables that go into an operation like this. I mean,
Oh,
just
yeah.
hearing you talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
all of this, being able to manage all of that complexity at once. How do you do that? How do you keep track of all of these different factors that are going on a day-to-day basis across multiple locations so that you can make decisions in real time?
Well, our managers on store are definitely our eyes, and they know what do I have to look for. There's of course standards like our bartenders can, if they want to offer a cocktail to someone, they can do it. They of course need to ask permission to a manager. It's not that they are that there's an anarchy, but at the same time we do that. But we do that, and the manager knows that once we're serving the cocktail for free, that cocktail is going to be posted on the system anyway and closed as a complimentary cocktail or a welcome cocktail or something. So we try to keep in record as much as possible what we serve, to who we serve, and we do this through our POSs. We try to build. Part of my duties is also working on systems. So whenever we have a new opening, I'm usually the one setting up the POS, the menus, and the inventory platform that we use, that they work together. Of course, they talk. There's an integration of the two. So everything that I punch on my POS, I can see depleted in my inventory as well. That can make me understand also if at the end of the week, I'm looking at my variances and I see that I've been punching 20 shots of vodka and I'm missing 20 bottles of vodka in inventory. Definitely either someone miscounted or someone took 19 bottles of vodka and take them home. So we gotta see where these things are going. And we go back to the weekly inventory. The weekly inventory is what make you understand what's your cost for the week. And if the cost of the week is upside down, you can go and dig into it. If the manager share their numbers and the numbers are good, then you move on to the next week. And you know the numbers are working fine.
Right. And
but
one of
definitely
those
our managers play a good part, and they're really good at doing that.
So don't let me forget about that, because I wanna go back to the managers. While we're still discussing all those complexities and things that happen on a day-to-day basis at any given location, I think one of those pains that operators and managers in this industry feel viscerally is what happens when you have to 86 a menu item. So you're losing the sale. What else does it cost you in terms of the customer experience and in terms of what happens to the restaurant or to you're calling them shops for the rest of the day?
Well, if you're so for sure, the goal is to never 86 anything. At the same time, I think it's something that you cannot predict at the end of the day. Maybe liquor is safer than food, because maybe food you portion, I don't know, 60 branzinos for the night, and that night you do 400 covers and 350 people want a branzino, and you're gonna have to 86 it. But how can you predict that if the other 30 days of the month you normally sell 50 branzino, you keep 10 extra? It's something that you can predict. When it comes to liquor, it's easier because you make cocktails a la minute, so it's much easier to grab another bottle and then use it. But sometimes we have 86 bottles because we buy a tequila and we buy the usual volume, and then we have an event and they just blow through it in one day. And
Cinco
you're
de
like,
Mayo
okay, I don't know.
coming up.
Exactly. For example. And so you don't have that tequila anymore for the rest of the week if you cannot place another order for it. Our approach, or at least my approach to it, and to today didn't have any repercussion, is that it's okay. You have other 50 tequilas on your back bar. So if you have to 86 one, it's important that your bartenders or your servers or your staff or your managers are good communicators, are good in and that's why you need your managers on the floor and not in the office doing admin work during service, because you're 86ing a cocktail and maybe that cocktail is going to a VIP table. You need a manager that is going to go there, is going to be a good communicator in explaining that for the night, I'm sorry, but we don't have this cocktail, but I can offer you other 5 different variations of that cocktail that is going to be a very similar flavor for you and that our bartender can make for you. And maybe it's going to be different product, different flavoring, but the same kind of style. Maybe you want an old fashioned. I don't have the signature old fashioned on the menu because it's 86. Maybe I make a different one. We still have bottles of liquors and flavored liquors on the back bar that you can play with. There are ways that you can definitely make up that. I don't think that can compromise the experience of a guest unless the guest put himself in a position of not wanting to hear you because they just want that cocktail. And at that point, there's not much you can do about it. You can just tell them, I'm sorry, I don't have it. And I don't have another way to make it. I just don't have it. So do you want to get mad, or you just want to have a pleasant experience and drink something else? Because at the end of the day, that's something that I tell to all my bartenders, and to kind of break the ice and give them a little bit more confidence. If, especially when we do new openings and people are nervous, is the first time working for the company, they wanna perform well, they want to do things right, and they're not used to it because it's the first days that they're working. I always remind them that we work in hospitality and the goal is to deliver a great experience, because that's what make guests come back. It's not, you can serve a cocktail that is going to be a 10 out of 10, but if your service suck, pardon my French, I'm not going to come back. But if your service is warm, it makes you feel good, and you don't have that cocktail, but you're proposing me something else and you do it with confidence, I'm going to come back every day without any problem. And doesn't matter if the cocktail is not a 10 out of 10 or the dish is not a 10 out of 10. Then, of course, we always work to have a 10 out of 10 product and a 10 out of 10 experience, because that's the win. But at the same time, that what I say to my bartenders always is like, remember that you're selling gin and tonics, you're not doing open heart surgery. So
that's probably true for most industries, right?
Yeah, you can take it easy. You can just be honest. Definitely not lie. Don't say, oh yes, I have this cocktail, and then you just, or yes, I have this tequila, and then you put a different tequila, because the guest is not gonna know. Because yeah, maybe some guests are not gonna know, but maybe some guests will, and that put you in a very, very wrong position, and that's something that would be very unethical for me. Just be honest. I finished this tequila. What can I do? I have other 50 tequilas for you. Same price level, same flavor profile, just a different brand. Maybe you taste it, maybe you learn something new, maybe you learn that you like a new brand of tequila and you're going to stop drinking the one that you were drinking before. But yeah, I would say that you need to be treated seriously, because you don't want a T6 product. You want to be organized and be able to provide to your guests everything that you're offering on your menus. But if that happen, you just gotta be go with the flow and be honest and propose something else and just solve the situation in the moment. It's not that big deal at the end of the day.
So it's interesting because you are totally correct. I mean, I imagine beverages are way more forgiving in this respect than food, because food spoils, right? You can't keep it around forever, so you have to inventorize with some level of, let's say, conservatively, that you have to inventorize, or the risk is losing a lot of product, right? And that's where the loss actually goes. Whereas in beverages, I'm hearing it's more, you're able to save money. You're able to make things more efficient by understanding your
Yeah,
inventory.
absolutely.
It's more of an opportunity than a risk. So that is very interesting. But then let me go back to that point that I told you I would come back to, which is the managers. And
Hmm.
that directly ties into staffing and scheduling and capacity. I always hear that this is one of the biggest time sinks in the industry. I keep hearing that this from pretty much anybody that I meet. So how does your team or you handle scheduling and shift coverage? Because there is where I see the real problem in not having enough people to serve these drinks. Is it systematized? Is it a lot of phone calls, texts? Is it very manual? Tell me more about that.
The practical process on scheduling and handling coverages.
Hmm.
We have a very stable system, because we carbon copy every time that we open a new venue. We work with the same system. We have our standard of operation. We drafted a whole SOP book with everything written inside as a manual of instruction for each manager that on board with us. We work with our HR platform where we do the scheduling. The scheduling get posted on usually the Thursday of the week before, and then every one of the employees on the HR platform can post their availability, so that can be respected. We usually ask people to keep their availability consistent, not every week. Or today I can work Wednesday, Tuesday, and next week I can work Saturday and Sunday. And we just try to keep it consistent. But of course, we keep in consideration everything, and we keep in consideration the level of business. So every day our opening manager can look at the book, look at the reservation, make a floor plan, and then see if we have other events going on, see what's the stuff that has been scheduled the prior week, and then can reach out on the same HR platform. There's also a chat to talk to all your employees, and the manager usually reach out over there offering cut, for example, or offering someone an extra shift,
Hmm.
which is a general question usually, so everyone has the same opportunities. And be like, hey, someone wants to be cut today, it's a slow day. And usually someone reach out and is like, yeah, I'll take the cut today. I'll pick up a double shift next week maybe, or something to make up for it. And sometimes it's like, hey, someone wants to pick up a shift today because we have someone called out, and someone else is going to reach out. And let's say it's a first come, first serve for people to pick up the shift at that point
Hmm.
if it's needed. Again, the same way that we buy products, also the labor is something that we monitor weekly. And based on history and based on business level and happenings and festivities. For example, this week is a week of holiday for the schools because it's Easter week. We know that a lot of families are going to go out of town. They're going to take a week and travel. So it's definitely going to be a slower week than the week before. So we know that we need to staff a little bit lighter. During the year, the staffing light today is going to come back for the staff when it comes to Q4, for example, where maybe we catch you now, but then Q4 you're gonna get extra shifts after,
Hmm.
during the year. So we try anyway to the best we can for everyone, to give as much work as possible to everyone. Always be mindful of our business and our cost. But that's how it works. It's very easy. It's all through this platform. If someone cannot come to work, we usually request them to be in charge of finding coverage for themselves. And then they just remove themselves from the shift on the app and offer the shift for pickup, because you can do it on the app, and someone else is going to grab the shift and put it in their schedule basically. So
Hmm.
then at the end of the week, when you do payroll, it's all everything is matching.
Right. So you would say that a lot of that happens in real time. I mean, tell me, are there any surprises that only show up often in like the payroll that you realize that there was a lot of overtime in one week and in a week that was much lighter, but I mean, you could only tell after the fact? Or is most of it mostly manageable on day-to-day basis?
Checking the book, the events, and the schedule daily from the opening manager for sure is something that we try to control as much as possible. There are nights where it's a big question mark, and so you got to take the risk at the point, and maybe you overstaff, and then you cut through the shift, and you try to control it to the shift. You can have someone working the busy peak, and then when it comes to 9 p.m. and you know that you have 20 people coming in and then your book is done. Maybe you get to a couple of people and you maybe they're the openers. You say, you know what, instead of staying until the actual time that you've been scheduled to, maybe you get cut an hour earlier. And an hour earlier here, an hour earlier there, it's a lot of money at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Then there are some weeks that happen. Some weeks happen that, we're human as well. Again, the labor is something that sometimes the labor schedule has been done not in the proper way. But again, because we discuss our costing on a weekly basis, again, it's not an error in scheduling that go on for an entire month before you discuss it, but it's weekly. So at the end of the week, it's like, guys, let's make sure next week to be more mindful and focus more on that. It was funny at some point. There was a moment of very quiet business in general for the city. And one of our operation manager came up with this fun activity to do among our managers in one of our stores where we have a restaurant and the bar. And there was basically a labor cost competition. We inherited this box of little Oscar statues from an event, like a plastic statues. And basically every week, this operation manager, which is the one that look at all the numbers, was announcing the winner of the week between either the restaurant or the bar of who was saving more labor, And that would come with the little statue, and then you would have to take a picture of it, and that was posted on one of the board in the back of house, and just make it fun like that. It's not that you were winning anything, but it was kind of like a healthy competition among managers that was driving results at the end of the day. Because of course, without affecting service, like you don't want to cut too much just because you want to win a little Oscar, and now you don't have the stuff to run the business in the proper way. But always be mindful of that. It was definitely a positive activation at the end of the day. It was fun.
Very creative. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's all in good fun, right? But still, you have to act when the performance dips at one of the stores, I imagine, And there are, I guess, factors and data points that tell you that something is dipping over time or over a week, and I imagine that you can see trends. So how would you say, like, how quickly can you tell that something like that is going on before you can actually do something about it and course correct?
You refer more to numbers and business level, or in general also, I don't know, like
Well,
staff issues or other stuff like that?
I think what matters to you will vary from operation to operation, but as a whole, I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's say you're mostly focused on numbers or inventory.
Numbers definitely. Again, on a weekly basis, you usually keep a wiggle room. And I remember at the beginning of my journey here in New York, I was in charge of the beverage cost for one of their locations, the flagship. It was one of my first responsibilities. And I was reporting to a director of operation that is not with the company anymore. And I remember him reviewing the beverage costs on our weekly calls. And let's say, like, we would flag out, for example, hey, the liquor cost this week is higher than the budget. Do you have an insight? And maybe I wouldn't have the insight on the spot. And so it would be like, okay, let's see what happened. And then maybe you have another week or two of wiggle room. And then if these keep happening, it means that something is going on. If the week after instead the liquor cost goes back to normal or even below, at that point you can actually get more information about it and be like, oh, you know what? We ran with a very lean inventory. And it happened one week, for example, we actually had an amazing revenue for the week and the liquor cost was still very high and I couldn't make up why. And the week after we had the same revenue and the inventory was kind of running the same way, except for the fact that we didn't consider that the week before there was an event where people were drinking Louis XIII, which is a $400 a shot cognac, and they drank the whole bottle. during this event. But that's a bottle that is sold at a 67% cost, if not more. Because if you were selling at a 15% cost, you would sell at $3,000 a shot, which no one will ever buy in their life. And so we got to the point that, yes, we sold the same volumes. We made the money. The cost is just high because we sold high cost products, more premium product. Yes, give you more revenue, more cash flow, but at the same time affect your liquor cost because they're sold at a higher cost. If you sell a Tito's and soda that you sell anyway in New York for from 16 to other venues where you sell it for 22, you're working on a 5% cost, So depends
So
what
how
you're
long
selling and the volumes.
how long did it take you to figure that out? And how do you figure that out?
The week after, the cost was back to normal, and I went in and checked the sales from our PMix, from our POS, and I noticed that 1 week during that event, we had this large sale of this expensive product, which didn't happen at all the week after. And when I went in and look at my spread, I have my personal spreadsheet where I do pricing, where every liquor has a price for 2 ounces, 1 ounce, everything. And I got all my cost percentages. And that helped me a lot to balance my wave of pricing. And I noticed, that was the Dulia 13 and it was super, super costly. So then I just reached out to my manager, say, last week, I think that's what happened. And in fact, this week, the number threw up and we have a liquor cost that is back to normal. Sometimes you get a couple of weeks and someone keeps stealing a bottle or 2 or 3. And maybe someone that is not your employees. It happened in one of our other stores. Someone was breaking in every night. I was taking 2, 3 bottles of tequila every night from the street. And we found out at the end of 2 weeks that we were like, why are we ordering so much tequila of this brand? And we're not going through it. Like the bartender was like, I'm not using it. How is possible we keep ordering it? And why the liquor cost is like that? I was going to variances. I was still missing 20 bottles of tequila. I was like, how do you guys sold 20 bottles of this tequila this week? And then we check our cameras and we see a guy walking in and doing grocery shopping at the bar every night.
So a segue from that now then, as we look forward and as we approach the end of the time that we have for today, before we go into a bit of a lightning round that I want to close you with, a couple more questions. Just again, being very forward-minded. If there was one thing that you could fix about how your operation is running right now, something that maybe has been on the back of your mind for a while, maybe it's at the top of the priority list, but you just haven't had the bandwidth to tackle, what would it be?
I don't know on top of my head right now. There's not something in particular that I would fix. Difficult question. Nothing comes to my mind at the moment. It's a difficult question, this one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like many of the challenges that you are aware of are industry-wide, right?
I wish I would change of myself. Sometimes I should pull back a little more and let other people figure out what to do. Because too many times I get involved in things that managers could definitely figure out how to do on their own, but they know that they're going to get a straight answer from me. And so I just get dragged in million different situations, which I shouldn't be, because it should be like, okay, figure it out and then come back to me with an answer instead of, but I'm getting better at that. Slowly, I'm getting better. I'm trying to be like, okay, try to do this, and that, and then come back to me. So I try to give them a direction instead of solving the problem for them. That's something that that's something personal of me that sometimes I get busy enough to be, and in my mind, there's a switch that says it's way easier and faster if you just do it and get over with it and just solve this problem for them and then just get on top of the next stuff, than actually spend the time to have this person figure it out and learn it. But if you spend the time once, in the future, you're never going to have to spend the time again, because that person now is learning something new, is going to know how to solve the problem after, and is not going to reach out to you every single time. And that's something that I'm learning. Definitely, that's something that I'm fixing on the way, for sure.
I think it's a struggle for many leaders, not just in this industry, but in any industry. So I totally get it. And then last, for an independent operator, whether that's a manager, a director, a VP that is thinking about modernizing their operation, whether that's in F&B or in hospitality as a whole, what is an advice that you would give them about how to modernize the way that they work? And maybe something that works for you, maybe something that you're looking into. What would that be?
When you say modernize, you refer like to use of technologies?
It could be technology. It could also be a process. Yeah, I mean, whatever you think of when you feel like modern businesses do this really well.
Definitely when you grow and you scale your operation, definitely need to be, you need to have a standard of operation procedure, which is what is helping us a lot. We drafted this book. It's a 37 pages book where it's basically a manual of instruction for everyone to be in line. Definitely draw a line where everyone can follow at the same time and in the same way what we want everyone to follow, for sure. Then you also need to be on top of the game anyway. But that definitely give you a tool to control a multi-unit store operation where a lot of things are happening at the same time. And this goes from inventory count, ordering, scheduling, service manual to how to be on the floor, accident reports, financial reports, anything. If you want it, you need to have something that is, like we are a company that is growing. We're not a huge company, but you kind of have to act like a huge company if you want to grow at the end of the day. So you need to have those procedures in place. Absolutely. That's something that is it's very important to have, for sure. But at the same time, I feel it's very important to say that with all the technologies that are coming to life and AI and reservation platform and chat and this and that, we always need to make sure that we don't lose the scope and the goal, the ultimate goal, which is deliver a great experience, and that you can do only with your person. There's nothing else you can do. There's no technology. There is no AI. There is nothing that can deliver a warm welcome and a curated experience and making someone feel good at your restaurant like they were in their house than you with your effort. 100%.
Well, if anything, we should be leveraging those tools so that we can have more time to focus on the experience, right? So that we can be more present in those moments that actually matter. So before I let you go, Giacomo, quick lightning round. Don't overthink these questions. First thing that comes to mind very quickly. Couple of questions that I'll throw your way. And again, just answer as plainly and honestly as you can. What is the most overrated thing in hospitality right now?
The most overrated thing is definitely the influencer food bloggers, to me, that make you sell you places that they give you such a high expectation. And then you get there and you get very much upset from and disappointed from what you're expecting to receive.
So on expectations, what are the best experience you've had as a regular or as a guest at, best hospitality experience that you had, and what made it stand out for you?
In New York or in general?
Let's say in general.
My favorite bar in the world is the Scarfs Bar at the Rosewood Hotel in London, where I always received an outstanding service, super knowledgeable staff, very warm and welcoming, super interesting products, super interesting location. That's definitely one of my favorite in terms of cocktail bar. If it comes to an experience, I would say I had a great experience with my wife at Locatelli. Locatelli is a 1 Michelin star restaurant in London owned by an Italian chef. And I felt the experience was really, really, really good. Again, because of the staff was very attentive to all details. We actually went on our anniversary the second time, and my wife was pregnant with our first boy. And they were very, very attentive to all the ingredients and the wine and what she could eat and what she could not. And the position at the table and give us a better table for her to be more comfortable. All these things adds up to then, of course, the experience of having a super top meal. And that definitely is another great experience that I had, for sure.
Amazing. And then in your mind, what sets apart an average operations hospitality leader from a great one?
That doesn't matter if you're wearing a suit, you got to get your hands dirty, no matter what. When we open places, I'm the one that get in a sweatsuit, and I have my screwdriver, and I build my shelves in the liquor room with the boys, and I unload trucks, and these make great leaders, I think. And it's not just me. I had one of my most amazing experiences was very quick experience, but we opened the Maidstone Hotel in the Hamptons in 2024. There was a heat outside that was out of this world. We received almost $100,000 of liquor and wine inventory on the day before the opening, and we had to manually transport it case by case in the basement of the hotel. And it was me He was who today is my manager, the senior vice president of operation. That at the time was the director of brand culture and one director of the company. So he was carrying his wine, I was carrying my liquor, and our CEO showed up in suit. And I was like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're unloading the trucks and stuff." And he just took his jacket off and he started passing cases too. And he's the CEO of the company. And seeing him doing that definitely give you a sense of respect for this person that is like, I want to be like that. And that's what I do every day. I try to do that every day. I work. When I work service on the floor, I'm a busser usually. I clean table, reset table for my server. I try to support them as much as possible so they can jump to the next table. And I'm not just there like directing the orchestra and not touching anything. And I think that's what makes you respected. And then what people do for you, anything that you're going to ask for, because they respect you.
Very inspiring. And then last question, Giacomo, if you were not in hospitality, what would you be doing now?
I always say that I would like to be a chiropractor.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a big chiropractor supporter, and I had many issues to my back. So I've been seeing a lot of chiropractors, and it's something that fascinates me a lot. Or I would love to work in sport. I wish I had the, in Italy, you don't have the same culture that you have in the United States of growing in sport with the college teams and high school teams and stuff like that. So I kind of got lost at some point, but it's definitely something that I wish I would have done at a higher level, and that then automatically would have translated into I don't know, personal trainer for a team or a coach or something like that. Yeah, definitely in wellness and sport. It's a word that I like a lot.
Very cool. Very cool answer and very unexpected, honestly. So,
I
Giacomo,
know.
we're getting to the end now. Thanks so much. This was a great conversation. I loved how unique your role is, but also how such unique experiences you bring from the complexity of dealing with this aspect of hospitality that has to do with not even the F&B, but the big B part of that. Thanks so much for all of your answers. Where
Thank
can
you.
our
Thank you. It was
listeners
a
follow you
great
or
experience.
what you're doing at LDV?
I don't have social media, so I deleted my Instagram a year and a half ago because I was frying my brain on reels every day, and I was like, I'm done with it. So I completely erased everything. I actually have a secret Instagram where I only follow our group restaurant and competitors to see what they do on social media. But I don't have anything else. I don't have pictures.
What
I don't
about
have
LDV?
followers. I don't have anything. LDV, well, I'm usually physically within our stores in New York most of the time, between Scarpetto, Barlume, La Tazza d'Oro in Union Square, down in Brooklyn at the Ace Hotel, or sometimes at American Cut in Tribeca, where we have definitely one of the top-notch porterhouses in New York.
Those are must stops for my next visit there. You bet.
Absolutely. You have to. For sure.
So thanks for listening to Deep Current by Oceans. If you are a hospitality operator dealing with some of the challenges that Giacomo described today, or are interested in keeping that conversation going, find us at oceansco.com. Until next time, everybody.